You turn the faucet. Nothing. Then someone knocks with today's water. Before water came through the wall, somebody had to close the final distance. And water is not especially cooperative luggage. It is heavy, it spills. A broken vessel can change the entire morning. A camera caught one version of this system in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, sometime between 1880 and 1897. An aguador stands beside his water cart. He is a carrier, a delivery worker for the thing no household can postpone. One city, one period. Not everyone hired a carrier, but the photograph makes the missing step visible. A town could have water. Your kitchen could still be dry. Somebody had to fill the vessels, move the weight, and bring it close enough to use. That was the last mile. Follow the cart for a moment. At the source, the vessels are easy to move because they are empty. That advantage ends when they become useful. Now every curb matters. So does every rough patch in the road. The load gets lighter only when water spills, which is not much of an improvement. By the time it reaches the door, the household has paid for distance in one form or another. Maybe money went to the carrier. Maybe time and effort came from inside the household. Either way, the route had a cost before anyone took the first drink. Today, the last mile ends behind the wall. Turn a handle, and water appears before you have time to wonder where it was 5 minutes ago. The faucet is a terrible tour guide. It shows you none of the route. Before water arrived on demand, the household could see its supply. Imagine 2 full containers sitting on the floor. That is drinking water, cooking water, washing water. Not 3 separate supplies, the same 2 containers. Use too much for one job, and another job waits. Spill one on the stairs, and the household doesn't lose a few cents on a utility bill. It loses the trip. Now, put that accident at the beginning of the day. Breakfast still needs water. So does the person who was supposed to wash before work. The floor is wet, the container is empty, and the source has not moved any closer. Someone goes back. That is how a broken bucket can reorganize a morning. This changed the rhythm of a day. Water wasn't only consumed, it had to be watched. How much was left? Was the container clean? Would somebody have to go out again before dark? The answers depended on the household. Some people paid a carrier. Some drew from a well nearby. Others collected rain. Different systems, same stubborn problem. The source was not the room where the water was needed. In historic Philadelphia, households built wells and cisterns into their own lots. At the Melrose estate in Natchez, rain ran from the roofs into underground brick cisterns. That house stored the weather beneath the yard, then pumped it back up. The cistern shortened the walk. It also created a new set of jobs. The roof had to catch the rain. The channels had to guide it. The storage had to stay usable. Solving distance did not eliminate maintenance. It moved maintenance onto the property. Useful, certainly. Universal? No. A family without the land, money, or right location needed another answer. That is where water becomes more than a natural resource. It becomes access. Who owns the well? Who waits at the pump? Who has a sound container? Who has the time and strength to make the return trip? Those questions are not safely buried in the past. In 2022, WHO and UNICEF reported that 1.8 billion people still lived without water on their premises. In 7 out of 10, the job fell mainly to women and girls 15 or older. The old route is still walked, and it still takes time from something else. So building a public water system was a huge change. It was also only the beginning. New York makes that difference unusually clear. For generations, residents collected water from local wells, ponds, and springs. Some early water moved through wooden pipes, but delivery was poor. Then, in 1842, Croton water reached the city. New Yorkers celebrated with fountains and a parade. Fair enough. Water had traveled about 41 miles to reach them. The parade celebrated water reaching the city. Plumbing still stopped at individual addresses. The city had water. Your kitchen still might not. A reservoir is not a faucet. An aqueduct does not climb the stairs by itself. Buildings still needed connections. Homes needed fixtures. Streets needed pipes. And all of that arrived unevenly. For city water to become kitchen water, the last connection had to happen again and again. Building by building. Floor by floor. A supplied street could run past a dry room. Somebody still had to pay for the connection, install the fixture, and keep it working. The aqueduct was a public triumph. Indoor plumbing remained a private construction project. Money could move one household forward in the queue. At the Longfellow House in Cambridge, Wealthy owners had a private wooden aqueduct. It brought spring water onto the property as early as 1792. By the 1840s, the household was spending heavily on plumbing and bathing fixtures. Many other residents still relied on private wells or local arrangements. Two households could live in the same town and experience different centuries at the sink. One turned a fixture, the other planned around the well. The future did not arrive by century, it arrived by address. Even a convenient source could solve the wrong problem. Water had to be close. It also had to be safe. In 1854, cholera spread around Broad Street in London. John Snow compared deaths with the water sources households used. The evidence pointed toward a neighborhood pump. Local authorities closed the well by removing access to it. The story is often polished into a heroic doctor tearing off one pump handle and ending an epidemic. History is rarely that tidy. Snow did not personally wrench off the handle, and closing the well did not create modern sanitation overnight. What the investigation revealed was more important. The route to water was also a route for disease. The nearby pump was convenient. That was part of the danger. Public water, therefore, needed more than distance and pipes. It needed protection, testing, and maintenance. A household couldn't solve those alone. That is the deeper change behind the faucet. The work became shared. The source moved beyond the neighborhood. Storage became reservoirs. The carrier's route became pressure inside a pipe. Pressure is the invisible part of the delivery. It pushes water around corners and up through a building. It lets the supply wait behind the handle. Water is ready at an inconvenient hour, when no carrier would be standing outside. The route no longer has to be repeated for every household visit. The network holds it open. None of the labor vanished. People still protect watersheds, test samples, and repair mains. The household simply stopped managing those jobs one bucket at a time. You can see the old system return whenever the network fails. A main breaks. A storm cuts power to a pump. Suddenly, water becomes inventory again. People fill containers, count what remains, and decide which uses can wait. Coffee needs water. So does the toilet. So do your hands. Ordinary actions begin competing again. The modern emergency feels old because the old questions never disappeared. That changed what water felt like. It stopped looking like inventory. It became a setting. Hot or cold. More or less. On or off. A small private choice resting on an enormous public arrangement. And because the arrangement usually works, the handle gets all the credit. Until it doesn't. At the beginning of this story, the faucet gave you nothing. So somebody knocked with today's water. The knock disappeared. The cart disappeared. The route moved under the street. The work is still there. You just don't have to carry it home. Turn the handle. The tap erased the journey.